You are going beyond with me, Tiffany Hopkins. Welcome to the 24-25 season premiere. We're going to have about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, probably not, to talk a little bit today about me and about the podcast and about what we've got coming up this season. We're going to do two episodes every month on the 11th and the 22nd of the month. So it'll be a different day every week. But we'll upload the new episodes at 6 p.m. Eastern. Everything goes to Spotify and all of your favorite podcasting platforms, as well as the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page and YouTube, to the Normalize Talking to the Dead Facebook and Instagram. So you should be able to find it wherever it is you're looking. You can also check out normalizetalkingtothedead.com for more information. That is because this podcast is brought to you and produced by Normalize Talking to the Dead. That is an organization I started, Tiffany Hopkins. And it used to be the name of this radio show, the last two seasons on Lilydale Radio. It was known on Spotify before that as Unknown Unknown. And so, as you can tell, this podcast radio show extraordinaire has been through many lives, come back as many different iterations, all with this attempt from me at having conversations about the unknown, about what happens inside our bodies, what happens inside our minds, what happens when we walk through nature, what happens when we die. I am fascinated by the mysteries and the unknown in our world and in the human life. And I spent a lot of time exploring them, researching them, talking to people about them. And so this show is really a place for sharing what I've learned, sharing my research, sharing conversations with other amazing people who are doing fascinating things and that I am learning from, and I hope that you can learn from. And this season will be going through from October 11th through June 10th. That's because on June 10th, I have a new book coming out called Beyond. And this whole season is going to be going through what I go through in the book, chapter by chapter, and talking to different people about some of the things that I go through in the book, sharing my own story, which is also in the book, which I'm going to do a bit of today, and really showing you what the book is about. So if you want to pick it up and read more about anything that we talk about in this show, you have a place to. And that's what the book is for, is I'm a reader and a writer. And so even though mediumship and the unknown is really hard to put into words, I needed a book about it. When I was learning mediumship, I really struggled to find books that worked for me. Part of that is because mediumship isn't learned out of a book. I learned that as I was writing the book, like, wow, not a good format. But mediumship is more than just the moments of talking to the dead, right? Or talking to whatever else you want to talk about or talk to, which we're going to talk about. And so the book is an attempt to give our brains something to hold on to, so that when we put the book down and we stop talking and stop thinking about it, our whole being, our nervous system, our body, our mind, our spirit are all in line and ready to receive and to communicate in new ways. And so in the book, I talk about different ways of thinking about mediumship and different conceptual models. I talk about how to be a responsible medium, how to find safety in mediumship, how to work through whatever nervous system state you're in, how to change your state, how to know when the right time to do mediumship is and place. I also am, obligated, or I don't even want to say obligated, because I don't feel like I have to. I feel like I want to share history of this. Like, I am not doing anything new, really. There's been so many different ways of talking to the dead and connecting with ourselves and with each other throughout all of human history. And I take this tiny little sliver of it and give an overview of the history of what's happened with modern American spiritualism. My own, you know, foundation for mediumship is through spiritualism and what I've learned in Lilydale. So I really want to talk about some of that fascinating and inspiring history. We'll talk a lot about the imagination and how it's a vehicle for exploration, and talk about, to some extent, how to be a medium that works professionally. Um, and then, of course, there's a how-to section. So about, building your own process. I'll talk a lot about my process, how to use mediumship for creativity, how to use mediumship for connecting with each other and for providing kind of one-on-one care, as well as development circles, and how to practice and explore with friends and fellow mediums. So we're going to cover all of these things mostly through conversations. I'll do a few episodes where I'm talking about my research, or it's just me kind of monologuing like I am today. And in the episodes we've got coming up this season, I'll also do and have others do live readings, and we'll talk through what it's like both as the medium, the sitter, and if there's a third person, somebody else who's in the room, so that you can get a sense of, what it actually looks like and feels like to be practicing mediumship. So that's what we have coming up over the next more than 6 months. I'm very excited to be sharing as much of this as I can in recorded format, and kind of introducing you to some of the wonderful people in my community. And hoping to give you information to prepare you to practice mediumship however it is you feel is right for you. So with that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm here doing this, making this podcast and writing this book and talking to you about mediumship and the unknown and all of these fascinating things. So I'm originally from upstate New York, Rochester area. My family moved to California when I was 8, into Northern California, and I spent most of my formative years in Nevada County, California, which is where the gold rush was. I left for college in San Diego, where I went to UCSD and studied cognitive science and interdisciplinary computing in the arts and music. So I have a music degree, did a lot of visual arts in that degree as well, and a science degree in cognitive science, which is a brain science, or the science of thinking. And in that, I studied a lot of computational neuroscience, a lot of computer science in general, and was really interested in how humans and computers interact and what it does to a human to be interacting with different things like sound and music and computers and each other. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense that I got into mediumship, because it's just another way of humans interacting with the world. And just like computers are a new way for us to interact with the world, mediumship for me is a new way of interacting with the world, a new old way, because we've been doing this for a very long time. And, the fact that I'm personally rediscovering it, maybe you're rediscovering it, doesn't mean that it hasn't been done continuously throughout all of human existence, and by many, many, many people all around the world, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not. We are interacting with things we cannot see, cannot sense, don't know are there, but also know are there, right? And I don't usually talk about this as a metaphor with computers, but it really makes sense in some ways because technology often feels like magic too. And it's not, right? It's takes so much hard work for people to figure out how to make technology. It takes brute force to build the hardware so that we can get technology. And then it takes years and years and years for people to adopt it, have the infrastructure they need to, for example, get internet, and then learn how to use it and then learn how to expand themselves by using it. And it's just like that with mediumship. And I think about how kids these days grew up with cell phones and internet and all of this, and how that changes how they interact with it. And I think about what if children in the future, just like children probably in the past, grew up with mediumship as a normal thing, and what their lives would be like and what they'd be capable of doing. And that's why I have an organization called Normalize Talking to the Dead. I think it is a completely natural human activity to talk to the dead, like singing and dancing or any other sort of thing that anybody can do in their own way. Not everybody does it. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody wants to be a professional. Not everybody wants to be an amateur. Not everybody wants to be around it. That's fine. Not everybody has to do it. But I do wish for a future where everybody can accept it and be like, yeah, that's okay. You can do mediumship just like, yeah, people sing. Okay. Some people love it. Some people don't care. Some people hate it. And that's fine. And we all get that choice because I see that in our future. I think it was less available, especially in Western culture and in the parts of the United States where I've lived. But I think that's changing. And so I want to get back to my story a little bit. Again, I just want you to know who I am and why you might want to listen to what I'm saying about all this. And so after college, I worked in product development and built websites and social networks. And then I went to business school. Um, I went in Switzerland and in Singapore and lived abroad, and then came back and was building my own research and design firm and struggling to make ends meet and to pay off my student loans from grad school. So I took a regular marketing job in a big e-commerce company in New York City. And my goal with taking that job is I want to pay off my student debt and I want to have enough money to buy a house. So I was saving like crazy and paid off my student loans after a couple years, and then was sitting at a wedding with my cousins, and it was my aunt's wedding. And one of my cousins says that the cottage, our grandmother's cottage in Lilydale, they were tired of dealing with it. Nobody really had the money to fix it up properly. It'd been empty for 20 years, and it was like, kind of ramshackle. And we're just going to let it go. And I was like, oh, maybe I could, I could pay the taxes on it and just see if maybe I can do some work. And, I'm in New York City. It's still 8 hours away from Lilydale, but maybe. And so I started paying the taxes on it. And it took a couple months. And then my sister reminded me that I had a house and that was my other goal. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm out of here. And I moved here in January. If you've never been here, you don't know that in January, there was 6 feet of snow at my door when I pulled up in my U-Haul into a cottage that was uninhabitable. I basically camped with my sister. She helped me move here. One of my sisters. I've got a bunch of them. And so this cottage had been empty for 20 years, and I moved in, and within a few days, I'd gone to a mediumship circle because, and I left this out, little tidbit, I guess you might want to know that Lilydale is a spiritualist community, the largest spiritualist community in the world at this point. There used to be lots of them. There still are others, but this one's sort of the biggest. We're in Western New York, an hour south of Buffalo, and it was started in the 1870s as a camp. People came in the summer. And actually, this cottage was meant to just be a summer cottage. My grandmothers grandmother and um, her daughter, so my great grandmother, bought the house in the early 1910s and would come here every summer from Perry, New York. They'd ride their horse and buggy until they got a car. They did have a car later. And my great grandmother, was the first woman in Wyoming County, New York, to have a driver's license, which I love. So they would come here and be part of this spiritualist community. And the spiritualism is the belief in spirit. But modern American spiritualism, with a capital S, in this part of the world, is a religion. And it's one focused on the fact that you can talk to the dead. It's focused on the continuity of life and that the spirit lives on after the body dies. And so everybody here is a spiritualist. A lot of people here are mediums, professional mediums. If you come anytime during the year, but especially during the summer season, and you walk around, you'll see little signs in front of people's houses. That's where the professional mediums live, the registered Lilydale mediums. You can get readings from them. You have to book in advance online or calling them. And so in this place I moved, there was 6 feet of snow. It was the middle of winter. I had a wood stove, trying to keep warm. There wasn't a lot to do, so I started going to circles. That would be mediumship development circles. Started learning how to do mediumship. And I had done tarot and, studied earth-based wisdoms and learned a lot about spirituality, studied and practiced all sorts of different traditions. And then I came here, which is a town with the tradition of my own ancestors, and felt really called to learn and practice the thing that people who, came before me and my family also practiced. And so got pretty into it. This was all back in 2018. And I ended up that same year, in the fall of that year, starting a 2-year program at a school and church called Fellowships of the Spirit, 2-year program in prophecy and spiritual healing, where I learned how to do mediumship and hands-on healing. And through that program, I had to do 70 readings and 70 healings each of the 2 years. So I learned how to be a client medium, which is to give readings to other people, while I was also exploring mediumship as a tool for healing myself and creativity and creating, artistic expression. And in that process, I kind of took what I'd learned in mediumship and how I did mediumship and made a process for using mediumship for creativity. And it was really my way of helping other creatives understand how to use mediumship, right? So it was like a quick way to learn mediumship in the context of doing art. So instead of doing a client reading, you're doing an artwork. So it's you, the spirit, and the piece of art you're working on, rather than you, the spirit, and a sitter or somebody you're giving a reading to. And so for these past few years, I've just been exploring how to do these things and how to approach mediumship in ways that expanded it outside of the bounds of client mediumship. And that's because in Lilydale, that is a lot of what is done here. There's a lot of professional mediums who are incredible healers and providers and have been doing this for decades and so long. And they're, just incredible humans that do this work that is really, really hard. Being a client medium, providing readings for people is really hard. And I kind of knew it probably wasn't exactly the kind of mediumship I'd be able to do. I just don't have the personality or the interpersonal like strength to sit and do one-on-one readings for people, multiple every day. I do them sometimes and I do a few, but I knew I'd probably need to keep my day job, which is research and design, um, and, you know, use mediumship as something I do on top of that. And so I found not a lot of resources in how to do other types of mediumship. And, I really started to expand past just the usual mediumship training. Well, I've done tons of it and continue to, but into areas of somatics, all different, creative and intuitive uh, education and practice and learning, into neurobiology and how the brain works and understanding what's happening, looking into history and seeing how that people used to use mediumship, which was a lot for social change and on a community level, and rather than at an individual level, the way mediumship is typically used today. And in that, I really found a broader practice of connection. And I found that mediumship is a form of connection and communication that I really believe can be used with anything. It can be used with my own body, with plants and animals, with the earth, with other planets, with other species, not on this planet, with my imagination, with characters from fiction, with the past versions of myself. Like, it is a way of communicating without using our regular communication skills, verbally talking or writing. Um, and just really, it's about expanding our communication skills to include communicating with the body more intentionally, communicating through feelings and through sensations, uh, and to some extent, turning down our regular thinking brain and allowing our feeling body and our connective spirit to chime in and help us make better decisions, be more connected, and feel less alone. Um, these are all the things I use mediumship for, and all the things we're going to be discussing on this podcast for the next few months, and what I write about in my book. So, yeah, that's why it's called Beyond, because I really want to go beyond our usual understanding of mediumship, as well as going beyond our usual understanding of connection and communication and thinking and decision making and data, and see what's out there. What do we have available that we're not paying attention to? Um, And so that's what we'll be doing. Again, we'll do conversations, interviews, live readings, a little mini circle or two where we've got multiple people giving messages. Um, and we're really going to dive in deep, go broad, probably be a little all over the place. Even though I have this degree in music, I did a lot of audio work. I have found that a podcast and the technical expertise it takes to really make it sound awesome is very difficult. Um, and so this is a little lo-fi, a little homegrown, and that is because I do have a day job. I do work as a medium. I also try to spend a lot of time outside and really varying my activities. Spend a lot of time practicing mediumship. And this is just, I want this to be fun and a low pressure environment for my guests that come on, for people who are listening, just to be able to open up and think about some new ideas and, yeah, see where it comes, see where it goes. And so throughout the season, I'd love to hear feedback on Spotify. You can leave reviews or leave comments. You can also leave feedback on the Facebook page on Normalize Talking to the Dead. You don't need to leave feedback on the Lilydale page. I mean, I'll see it, but it's much more direct if you leave it for me on our Facebook page for Normalize Talking to the Dead, or Instagram. This will be up there too. Or just go on to normalizetalkingtothedead.com and send us a message there. And let me know what you'd like to hear. Let me know who you'd like to talk to, who you'd like me to talk to. And I will be looking for people to sign on while we're recording to be a sitter for readings. So keep an eye out, especially on our Instagram and Facebook, for notices for when that's going to happen. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with all of you, hearing what you have to say, and hopefully sharing with you some information that you find interesting and expansive. So thank you so much for listening today. Our next episode will be on October 22nd. It will be posted at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I hope between now and then you will spend time thinking about what mediumship maybe already means for you or could mean for you. And maybe write that down and see how that changes over the next few months as you listen to Beyond with me, Tiffany Hopkins. Thanks again.